A moratorium on medical marijuana passed and 2 police grants accepted. Details from Thursday's town council meeting on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Friday, March 8th, 2013. I'm Sarah Colvin. A presentation from town manager Tom Lynch regarding the Mass Cultural Council's Commonwealth Award to Barnstable for Creative Community led off last night's meeting, followed by a bikeways presentation, then comment on solid waste from Assistant Town Manager Mark Ells. Councilors spent the majority of Thursday's working session discussing a proposed moratorium on medical marijuana. Director of Growth Management Joanne Miller-Buntich read the rationale.
The item before you this evening is a tool and a technique that's used by communities in the Commonwealth when they're presented with land use decisions for which they're sort of unprepared to make. I can't think in my career of another land use decision that the entire state is unprepared to make of the scope of this one. So it's a temporary moratorium. By voting to adopt the moratorium, you're agreeing to engage in a professional level of study to look at the issues that would be raised by adoption of an ordinance, or the issues that are raised by the passage of ballot question 3, how they would be implemented in the town, what the potential primary and secondary effects, direct and secondary effects would be, and things of that nature. Those are the responsibilities as you adopt a moratorium. And the timing, I'll just speak to that very briefly. The timing in here is, we hope, should the state act more quickly than it appears that they are, we've built in the time that would give us enough time to conclude the legislative process, to create the ordinance, goes to the first to you folks, then to the planning board for their hearing, and then back here. And so we would have a short period of time really to do that. But we think that this is as much time as we can ask for, and we think we can get the job done in that amount of time.
Much discussion from councilors followed, including insight from Precinct 4 Councilor Fred Chirigotis.
Thank you. You know, interestingly, I've attended a bunch of seminars, and we've tried to get a handle on this so that we can exactly do what you're talking about, do it correctly and do it safely. And every single meeting seems to be the same thing on why this law shouldn't have been passed, and it's a bad law, and all those other. It was passed in every precinct in Barnstable by at least 60%. It's been passed by the state. But interestingly, and my first reaction was, it's the will of the people. We've got to figure out a way to do this. And then my mind can be changed. You know, I learned things. And it comes to me that, and I'm reading from a letter that was written by Richard Agababian, who's the president of the Massachusetts Medical Society. There are no standards of care relative to medical marijuana. How would a physician prescribe medical marijuana when there's no reasonable degree of medical certainty based upon anything for the prescription to be made? So, I mean, there's a whole host of issues that need to be discussed. You know, all of the things that people are talking about, safety, appropriate citing, if there is a medical standard, if there are doctors who believe that this is appropriate to prescribe, and that there are appropriate levels and dosages and all, you know, then it becomes our job to do the study and make it come out right. Personally, though, with the way it is right now, I don't see that any physician would feel comfortable prescribing marijuana, which remains, I'm reading, classified by the DEA as a Schedule I controlled drug, which means that it currently has no accepted medical use and has a high potential for abuse. So how does a doctor prescribe it? I mean, without any standards. So I think that there needs to be a lot of work, but it is the law. Maybe what the law should have said is that we're going to legalize marijuana, but they didn't do that. They call it medical marijuana, and that's sort of a misnomer. So I think when the time comes, it is our job to do whatever is necessary to protect the citizens of the town of Barnstable, and at the same time, accept the will of the voters.
Buntich commented that this truly is a complex issue.
I wanted to be clear. We've heard councilors concerned about prescribing, about private medical use, about federal and state regulations that may overlap with this. And I just want to be clear that this is what we're asking to adopt tonight is a zoning, a land use moratorium. This doesn't reach into, and will never reach into, the areas of medical practice, medical standards, and areas where land use regulations do not typically reach. And so some of the issues that were raised tonight will never be addressed by a zoning ordinance that we can put forward. But what we would hope to learn, I think, in this study is how other communities have dealt with those direct and secondary effects, which is really what we're discussing this evening. And I think we can learn from that. And we believe, as I think I'm hearing from the council, that we need to be very deliberate and very careful in order to provide the best regulatory approach for the citizens of the town of Barnstable. The number was 67% townwide who voted in favor of this. But I would just say that I think if they'd read the regulation, they might have felt differently, because it could have been a little more clear.
Councilors unanimously approved a moratorium on the establishment and permitting of medical marijuana treatment centers and associated activities relating to ballot question 3. The state continues to work on its rules and regulations. Council also approved a pair of grants for the police, the first for emergency service. Chief Paul McDonald explains.
Welcome. Good evening, Madam President, Town Councilors. The Police Department applied for and was awarded the Emergency Management Performance Grant from the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency in the amount of $17,500. The Police Department coordinates the emergency management operation of the Town of Barnstable, and the Chief of Police serves as the Emergency Management Director. Many of the portable radios used by the emergency management personnel within the department are in excess of 25 years old and are obsolete in terms of parts availability and meeting optimum levels of interoperable communication standards. This year's allocation will enable the police department to purchase 11 new radios. The analysis, the acceptance of this grant will allow the department to replace obsolete handheld radios that are vital to emergency operations. This grant requires a 100% match, which is largely met by a portion of the chief's salary that's allocated to emergency management operations based on a formula provided in the grant of $11,250. And the balance is met through the purchase of 4 handheld radios in the amount of $6,500, which will be funded through our current operating budget.
The second for bulletproof vests.
The police department have received the federal fiscal year 12 bulletproof vest award in the amount of $18,900, and is a partnership award, which is $9,450 federal allocation and a $9,450 state allocation. The partnership award is based on the concept that the federal agency will pay for 50% of the cost of a bulletproof vest, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety will pay for the other 50% of the cost of the vest. $18,900 will cover the cost of approximately 21 vests at $900 each. Bulletproof vests are a primary safety component of a police officer's gear. Under normal wear circumstances, it is expected that bulletproof vests will last for 5 years. After this time, the safety aspects of the vest are considered to be compromised by normal wear and tear. This partnership grant allows for vest replacements every 5 years unless a vest has been damaged. The fiscal impact. The entire process of acquiring the reimbursement for vest purchases from both the federal and the state agency is a lengthy process and can take upwards of a year to acquire full reimbursement. The need to purchase vests is ongoing, whether it is an outfit for a new officer or to replace a vest for an existing veteran officer. Thank you.
Council approved both of those grants. An appropriation of $7 million from the general fund to the capital fund and an appropriation of $50,000 for a medical marijuana study were moved to public hearings on March 21st. Council will meet a workshop session on Thursday to further discuss problem property ordinances. You can watch last night's meeting in its entirety online at town.barnstable.ma.us. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.